And now we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Brian Grossman. I'm editor-in-chief of the Colorado Springs Independent and the Colorado Springs Business Journal. Alyssa.
Hi, Alyssa Smith. I am the associate editor of the Colorado Springs Indy.
Very good.
Mary Jo.
I'm Mary Jo Mead. I am the copy editor hereabouts.
Okay.
Good to meet you.
My pleasure as well.
Helen.
Helen Robinson. I'm the managing editor of the Business Journal. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So Arthur, you're not left out. You get to introduce yourself now. Who are you? Where are you from? And why are you running for city council?
Well, certainly. I'm Art Glynn, of course, running for City Council District 3, currently held by Richard Scorman, as you all know quite well. Lived here for 15 years. Military brought me, and then we decided to stay here, and we fell in love with everything that Colorado Springs has to offer.
Okay. And why are you running for city council?
So, so the key thing, like I said, 15 years ago, we fell in love with the simple fact that families look after their kids in school, wanted to make sure that they achieve the same level of success that they had, if not better, and also that neighbors were looking after neighbors. But most importantly, we were enamored with the fact that people were happy, and this was a great place to be. The reason why I'm running for city council is that Richard Scorman he served now 3 terms, and he's going for his 4th term in city council, and he's certainly been more focused on issues that are citywide as compared to here in the district. I've had the opportunity to talk with a number of folks throughout the district, and in short, they found that their voice was not being listened to, and so I intend to serve as their voice.
Okay. And I'm sorry. Were you done?
Yes.
Okay. Did you say, are you currently employed, or are you retired, or?
So I'm retired from the United States Navy.
Okay.
But I'm still very much employed.
Okay. And you mentioned that you'd like to see a focus on issues within the district specifically. What do you see as those issues that you'd like to focus on?
Well, there's probably the key thing is prosperity. And having talked with Richard, he said, hey, Art, we're completely in agreement about this. I firmly believe that rising tide raises all boats. And the key thing is, if we want to maintain the standard of living that we have here, we need to bring in those high quality jobs. Part of that was a lot of focus was on Space Command. And so, well, it's done and over with. Well, the short answer is it's not. I'm sure you folks are well aware that politically charged, and a lot of discussions about that. Though that brings a small number, about 1,300 uniform and GS personnel. But what it brings more importantly is the aura that this is truly a military town with concentration of that capability. That capability is important because it brings other jobs that support the space industry specifically.
What measures would you take to assist small businesses that have been negatively impacted by the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, certainly the key, without a doubt, we know that nationwide, probably it's been stated 50% of all restaurants will probably be permanently closed. The key thing is to reduce and remove the barriers from current industry through taxation and other regulatory constraints. Especially downtown, we're focused on serving local businesses. And certainly that's a campaign that we need to continue to do, focus on our brethren here and near.
Along the same lines, do you agree with public health's parameters for opening business? Would you loosen those parameters? Would you tighten them up, or would you stick with public health?
I have a very, very close relationship with public health of El Paso County. And so I have great trust in the leadership that's there, very thoughtful. They have gone toe to toe with the governor on many different issues. And to their credit, they have focused on what the science says. And so I'm very supportive of our Department of Health.
Okay. Can you talk about how you would address the affordable housing shortage in the city?
Well, kind of like small businesses, the key issue is over the last many years, we've enabled or erected barriers for good construction. What's been commented, I made comment with somebody that was a developer and said, hey, we would love to do more development. But at present, just before they even break ground, it costs $60,000 a house. In addition to multi-family housing, the biggest challenge we have there is tort reform. As it currently stands, if there's, let's say you have a 200 unit complex, and there's one unit that has a fault, from a legal liability, attorneys can come in and basically attack the whole complex. Anybody who's a businessman is going to look at the risk analysis. And that's one reason why we've not seen any additional development. I know on city council, there's been concern that, hey, how come people are leaving the city for the county? Quite frankly, they vote with their wallet.
What about the issue of homelessness? Any thoughts on how you would address the homelessness issue in the city?
Well, the homeless issue here is obviously a very complex issue. And I really break it down, quite frankly, to three components. We have those folks that are homeless due to circumstances not of their own control. We have military that are homeless. And then we have homeless that are chemically dependent and associated with it have mental health issues. We need to focus on what the key issue is. What I fear is when the moratorium on evictions expires here soon, we're going to have huge numbers of homeless folks. Historically, what we've done is we've developed the homeless shelter down on Las Vegas. And so, well, it's just one size fits all. It's not one size fits all. Being a military guy, we take care of our own. And certainly from that aspect, I'm concerned that we have brought back soldiers, particularly, and airmen, who have not had the opportunity to readapt back into our society. History has showed that societies that fail to do that will suffer long and severe consequences. Short answer is it's a complex issue and needs to be broken down on the individual components.
Okay, thanks. What are your feelings on legalizing recreational marijuana dispensaries within the city?
I see that marijuana and military service are mutually exclusive. Our military service members have great challenges. At present, only 30% of the populace is able to serve in the military at any point for a variety of reasons. To introduce another obstacle or a diversion, number one is, again, that's one of the reasons why Space Command was decided to go down to Alabama base here initially. The second component is nobody in their right mind ever anticipated we would have the concentrations of THC that we do. When medical marijuana was legalized, part of the argument was a lot of those resources are going to go to schools. Looking at the accounting, very few dollars have actually gone. It was a mistake to legalize marijuana here for medical reasons, and be a further mistake to do recreational marijuana. The counter argument is, hey, we need the tax revenue to counter that. It's just exacerbating a problem that we're going to live with for a very long time.
In 2020, I keep getting an echo, that's why I stall. Sorry, I don't know if anybody else is hearing that. In 2020, the city stood up the Law Enforcement Transparency and Accountability Commission. I'm wondering if you could share your thoughts on LETAC and anything that you might have done differently.
Certainly that has been politically charged given the turmoil that our nation has seen this last year. And transparency, I think that law enforcement, to every law enforcement officer that I know, embraces transparency. What they don't embrace is a perceived witch hunt. And what they want is a fair hearing. Nationwide, we have seen focus on individuals, and they've been painted, the whole force has been painted negatively. I think the challenge with the committee that has been established is need to make sure that it's not not searching again for um, for witches, for lack of a better term.
Okay. One criticism of city government, our city government, is that it tends to be retired military. You are retired military. How do we make city government more inclusive and representative of the city itself?
What's interesting throughout my whole career, I've dealt with reaching across the aisle, addressing from a mission focus on how do we achieve the best objective. The engagements I've had in private sector has been exactly the same thing, and I believe it's unique talent that we in the military that bring. Obviously, the city council is essentially a volunteer job, and I loved serving, great joy in serving my nation for over 30 years, and this is an opportunity that I see to continue that service. To say that I have a myopic perspective that is military driven, I think is unfair.
Do you think that the pay should be such that it's not a volunteer opportunity and that would open up other opportunities for other people?
Well, certainly there has been discussions to that. I think it warrants further discussion. The key is, people choose to serve to be altruistic. I know that's why I do. Certainly from the, since I am already employed, will be a huge significant financial hit to me. But it's a way for me to make an investment in my community.
If you are elected, you would also serve on the utilities board. How comfortable are you with being a CSU board member and the challenges that that might bring?
I'm extremely comfortable. Primarily, one of the projects that I was involved with when I was in uniform was something called SPIDERS, Smart Power Infrastructure Demonstration for Energy Reliability and Security. And one of the partners was CSU and was focused on building a cybersecure smart grid, which we had a congressional mandate to incorporate renewables. It was a technology demonstration between DoD, DOE, and DHS in the private sector. Over the last several years, I worked closely with CSU, and I think even more than anybody with the exception of Andy Pico that has left, I probably have as good an understanding, if not better, of what the critical issues are.
Can you share your thoughts on the decision to close Drake?
I think my focus on energy here in Colorado Springs is resilience and affordability. And there is obviously not only a nationwide, but a global effort viewing that coal is evil and needs to be terminated. That decision's already been made. Already that the Drake, they have about 100 days of coal surplus available there. Most of what they're moving towards, as you well know, is to natural gas. The unfortunate thing, we had a huge experience here down in Texas, where the natural gas pipelines shut down. That is one of the challenges we have. What I do trust in the CSU leadership is they're very, very thoughtful. They've identified viable alternatives. That they're focused on providing the resilient energy that we have. Even if we took down Drake, discussion was, well, we need to redevelop that into parks or various other things. We will have a huge substation there. This would be bigger, even if the whole plant facility is taken down. I know a lot of people look at 3 smokestacks and go, look at all the pollution that's coming out of there. 99% of that is vapor. And a lot of people mistake steam vapor as smoke.
You mentioned earlier having reached across the aisle in the past. Can you talk about how you approach collaborating with people you don't necessarily agree with?
Absolutely. My whole career, quite frankly, my colleagues and even some people that I disagree with have referred to me as a quintessential diplomat. And by that, I've been focused on mission, which is the military perspective. But what is the primary objective? I've actively sought out divergent and opposing viewpoints. The key to it is do it civilly. Probably the best example I have is work in science and technology for homeland defense, working with a colleague. Inevitably, whenever we attack a problem, it was from opposite sides of the problem. He stated to me, he said, Art, when we work together, it's like steel on steel. What happened is the solution we came up together was far better than anything we could come up with individually. Even to the point that basically each of us would offer a hypothesis, and we would get into intellectual arguments to the point of, tell me what's wrong. Here's my hypothesis. Poke holes at it. And when we did that honestly, we were able to come up with perfect solutions or optimal solutions. I applied the same approach to my business dealings today.
Can you tell us about, excuse me, a mistake that you've made and how you worked to correct it?
Well, certainly. I had a business that I turned over to somebody else, and basically it went bankrupt. I was mistaken in giving undue trust in an individual. But what I learned from that is that the burden was upon me, that the reason why that failed is I had not properly trained and empowered that person with the resources. But most importantly, let them know that if there was any challenges, they can come back to me. And that's happened many times in military. We'll talk about business specifically, but that's lessons I've learned just from basic leadership.
Art, what is your proudest achievement?
My proudest achievement is my family, without question. That's one of the reasons why we are here in Colorado Springs. That's one of the reasons why I'm making the investment in my community to make it as good as the way what brought us here originally, so that other families can share that.
One quick follow-up on something you had said earlier, the Drake thing. Do you have a citation for the vapor comment? 99% is vapor. Is there a place where people can go to find that?
It's actually, I believe it is in the CSU materials.
Okay, so if they go to CSU.org, ColoradoSpringsUtilities.org?
I believe it's .gov.
.gov, that makes more sense. Yes, thank you. Why do you think you're most qualified for this seat? You are running against an incumbent. You talked about that, but overall, why are you the most qualified?
Well, simple fact that I've been engaged in my community. I currently serve as county commissioner on the board of the Citizen Outreach Group. I've actively reached out for the last 2 years, particularly talking with constituents across the area, and I've promised to be their voice. And I've gotten positive feedback from a good number of folks, even with folks I disagree with. I said, you have the right to be heard, not to be left in silence.
Here's an easy one. What do you do for fun?
Well, right now, obviously, I'm campaigning. That's filling my time. Whether that's fun or not, that's debatable. Certainly, what brought us here to Colorado Springs specifically, was outdoor activities. I love hiking, biking, skiing, fishing, all those things that make Colorado great.
Okay, that's all I have. Let's see if anybody else has questions for you. Mary Jo, did you have anything for Art?
No, I don't. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alyssa, anything?
Yeah, so you mentioned that one of the reasons you're running, one of the primary reasons, is voices in the district have not been heard by current City Council President Richard Skorman. What issues in particular are important to your constituents, and how would you make sure that they actually get the community engagement that they want?
So there's actually 3 events specifically that are throughout the district, separate district, actually 4. The one closest to where I live is the Ridge, the Section 8 housing. When questions were raised by local constituents, they were viewed as quote unquote NIMBYs, not in my backyard. Granted, there were a few folks that made that comment, but the issues, as I talked to a variety of people, was majority of people weren't objecting to having Section 8 housing here. What they were objecting to was whether the due process in identifying critical infrastructure. When I say critical infrastructure, ADA compliance specifically. Also mass transit. Currently for the Ridge, mass transit, the bus system is across Highway 15 and South Academy, either at Pikes Peak Community College or on the other side by King Super. The concern was that wasn't addressed, and the local constituents felt as if they had been silenced. The second one, interesting enough, was lane dieting and going to Old North End. I talked to folks on both sides of the issue. There were some that were supportive of the idea, but a number of folks complained that we did not have the opportunity to voice our approval or concerns. Third component was Strawberry Fields, which still is a hotly contested issue. And then the fourth one is really the homeless shelter down on Las Vegas. That is a jewel granted from the mayor and the rest of the city council about what they're trying to do to make a change. But local businesses have been basically shut down for fear of their customers. One business in particular, he says any customer comes down, he has to go out and actually beat his customers at the car and actually bring them over. And he felt particularly he's been silenced and said, hey, you don't want to raise this issue. So those are our four particular areas.
Thank you.
Sure.
Helen, you got anything?
Don't have anything extra, thank you.
Okay. Art, any closing thoughts for us?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. That I do know that Richard Scorman and John Weiss have a 45-year personal relationship, and quite frankly, that I don't know if the endorsement came for anybody other than Richard Scorman, probably some heads would roll. With Teddy Weiss as his campaign manager, obviously the Weiss family has a significant vested interest in making sure that Richard continues to remain in office.
I appreciate that, but I can tell you that John has nothing to do with our endorsements. He's not involved with any of the calls or even the meetings where we pick candidates. So, and we do disclose the fact that Teddy Weiss is part of the Scorman campaign, as is John. So we are independent of John Weiss, but thanks for pointing that out. It gave us a chance to talk about our disclosure. So we will be making our endorsements around, we plan it for the March 10th edition. So be on the lookout for that. And we appreciate your time. Best of luck in the race.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Art. Bye-bye.